This article is about corporate deception. It's joint work with Professor Chun-Wei Chu at the University of Toronto, and we had help from two great research assistants, Sarah Bremer and Sarah Trivedi. So what we did is we looked at 80 cases of corporate misconduct, the ones that attracted really large fines in the United States between 2010 and 2020. And we were essentially asking, is corporate deception involved in these cases? And we found a lot of stuff. For instance, information falsification. So this is all about fabricating data. The Volkswagen emissions scandal is a great example, when the company programmed cars to cheat on emissions tests so that regulators couldn't find out the real emissions of these cars. There's also information concealment. That's slightly different. This is really about hiding crucial data or facts. For instance, the tragedy around the Boeing 737, when important safety features were concealed. There's also information obfuscation. So this happens when information is presented, but in a way that's very complicated or confusing to the intended audience. It's the case around Johnson & Johnson, for instance. They had a drug where they found in one study that increased the risk of strokes, and then just packaged it together with two other studies. So overall, that result was in the background, and it seemed as if the drug was safe, even though it wasn't. So these are different types, different things organizations do. We found this not just for these three organizations, but in the vast majority of misconduct cases. So in our sample, more than 60% of cases, deceit played a crucial role, and it then led other people to make poor decisions, for instance, consumers or regulators, that led to harm. So now we wanted to know, how are organizations actually pulling this off? And is there anything we can do to stop this? And this is where Chun-Wei Chu's background in information science was particularly helpful. So there are these two different strategies that organizations use. And the first one we're kind of familiar with. It is the strategy they use when they have little control over the information that they want to conceal. We call this strategy sowing doubt, together with many other researchers. So the tactics involved here is spreading misinformation, creating fake experts, shifting the focus of the debate. And the prime example of this are the tobacco companies until the 90s tried to cast doubt on the link between smoking and cancer. The information that smoking might cause cancer was out there. So all they could do was to create those fake experts and play down research studies and so on. But everyone knew that there was a debate around this, so they couldn't fully control that information. On the other hand, there are also cases when organizations have a lot of control over the information that they would rather not see others know about. And we call the strategy they employ then exploiting trust. So this is not about debating real experts with fake experts in the public domain. This is about hiding and falsifying information that only they have access to. There might be information about product quality or customer data, financial performance. Again, the Volkswagen case is a perfect example because they created this monopoly of information around the real emissions their cars were producing by implanting these defeat devices. So now they controlled that information alone. And that second strategy, that strategy of exploiting trust, that we have a lot less experience with, and we haven't really figured out the regulatory response in the same way. In a way, as long as organizations are sowing doubt, things are relatively easy. Don't trust the companies. Trust independent experts. Pour money into independent research. Go with what the scientists say who aren't bought by the tobacco lobby. Exploiting trust more difficult to address. Why? Because you don't even know where to look. You don't know where the risk might be. If you get a reading at your emissions test and it shows everything is fine, there's no immediate reason to look for a defeat device in those cars. So we're doing the article is to say we need to think more about the strategy of exploiting trust, and we need to think proactively what can regulators do to identify the companies and the situations in which they might try to exploit our trust. And in those cases, we might call for more transparency or for more independent investigation. And if you want to read about a lot more cool cases about corporate deception and what to do about it, have a look at the article. Thank you.